Welcome, everyone, to an NABC chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Speedy Claxton from Hofstra. 22-8, 15-2 in the Colonial. One game left against Northeastern, trying to get that #1 seed in the Colonial tournament. Been a great race, obviously, with Charleston, Towson, Wilmington. There's a lot of good teams that are at the top vying for that #1 seed and a chance, obviously, to get into the NCAA tournament. Speedy, what's interesting here to me is we've seen a lot of former players take over at their former schools over the last 10, 20 years. It hasn't always worked out. Why is it working so well for you?
Listen, I can't speak for anyone else, but I love being back here. You know, I think I'm doing a pretty good job so far. But I have a great group of kids, honestly. Chemistry has been amazing this year. I think last year our chemistry was a little off because I just went out and just tried to amass a bunch of talent. But together they weren't a good team. So going into year two, I wanted to more so create a team, form a team, and that's what we kind of set out and did. And I think it's paying off dividends for us.
Well, to that point, that's what you were on when you were so successful. Obviously, you became the star, but it was a really good team. And it's easy, I think, to feed into that now, to just amass talent. And we're seeing that around the country where the better scenario is make sure you do have a team.
But
Purdue, I think Purdue is a great example of that.
Work.
Yeah, like Purdue is a great example of that, where they have more talent last season, but I think they're a better team this season.
Yeah.
How'd you figure that out? That was
it's funny you bring that. It's funny you bring that up because I was talking to one of my assistant coaches about Purdue a couple of days ago. I said, you know what, they probably have. I said the same thing. I said they probably had more talent last year, but this year they're a better team. Like they just work well together, and that's what you want to do when you're trying to win at a high level. You got to build a team, man. Pieces they have to work. A team is like a puzzle. The pieces have to fit.
Yeah, and obviously you have to make sure that guys buy into their role, stay in their lane.
Oh, that's a 1,000%, 1,000%. Last year's team, they kind of knew what we wanted their role to be, but they didn't want to accept they didn't want to accept their role. This year's team, they know their role, they accept their role, and they perfect their role, and that's why we're good.
Yeah, I mean, think about like a big who really can't score beyond 2 feet, and then he suddenly wants to shoot threes. Like that's not who he is.
Exactly, and that was my issue last year. I mean, our big he was tremendous for us. He had a really good year, but he wasn't an offensive player. But then he wanted the basketball. I'm like, well, that's not what you do. So I mean, in order for us to be good, this is kind of what we need you to do. And he just didn't want to buy into that.
So what about the aspect of being the former player? When you come back to your alma mater, I think the alums, everyone, he was so great on the court, he'll be so great off. How do you make sure you balance that? Wait a minute, this is a different way I need to help this university. I can't do it the same way I did as a player now as a coach. What's that line of thinking?
Oh yeah, well, everyone knows coaching is way different than playing. Teaching the game and explaining the game is different because as a player, you kind of just know what to do. When you're a good player, you kind of just know what to do. But you got to kind of coach these guys into becoming good players. So it's different, but it's a challenge. But I'm up for the challenge, and as long as you have a good group that's willing to listen and learn and get better, I think you'll be fine.
The other thing too, Speedy, is I have found in talking to players like yourself over the last, couple of decades, believe it or not, that their work ethic, how they got to be where they were, they expect everyone to do the same, and not everyone's wired that way. So how do you deal with that?
That is so true, man, because I didn't need when I was a player, I didn't need anybody to push me to be in the gym to get extra shots, extra workouts, work on my game. But sometimes you got to give these kids an extra push, and it's like, yo, well, all these kids say they want to be pros, but you're not really doing what it takes to be a pro. Like you can't just say it. You got to go out and actually work at it. Like you have to work on your craft, because there's a ton of people playing basketball, and we have a great role model, great leader in Aaron Estrada. You know, he's preseason player of the year. He was player of the year last year, and he's our hardest worker. And we have a kid by the name of Tyler Thomas, who we got by the way of transfer portal, who came in, and he just kind of watched Aaron's lead, and he saw how hard he works on his game. He just follows him, and now I'm pretty sure he's gonna be first team all league here pretty soon in a couple of weeks.
The other thing I love about your team this year and just watching from afar is I almost feel like, and this is not, look, Pat Kelsey's done a great job, so I don't want this to go the wrong way, but it feels like, you know, Charleston was that runner who got out to that fast start, and Hofstra was the runner who was just pacing. And then as the race got late, saw the opening and ran ahead. And
you're 100% right, Andy.
It feels like that.
So Towson, I forget, somebody had tweeted, Towson had got the preseason hype, and then, you know, Charleston, to their credit, they had they are having an unbelievable season, you know, getting ranked and all that. You know, there was a lot of hype around them throughout the season, and you know, no one was really talking about us, and we were okay with that, really, truthfully and honest. But then once we beat Charleston at Charleston, that's when I think it opened eyes and was like, okay, wait a minute, like Hofstra might be all right. And then we followed that win up with a win against Towson at home, and I think that's what really got us going.
So one last thing and a lot of work to do. You got this last game, you got the tournament, and we know the rules of engagement here. You got to win the league. But if all that works out for you guys, because you've got a big time score in Estrada, and and you get the NCAA tournament in these first and second round games, a lot of it, you know, think back to Max Asmus at Oral Roberts a couple years ago. If you get in, why is Hofstra such a dangerous opponent for one of those other high majors in a 5-12 or 4-13, something like that?
Well, for one, we do have a dynamic scorer, playmaking guard in Aaron Estrada, but it's not just him. You know, if you key in on him, we have other guys that can hurt you. Like I said, Tyler Thomas he will be on first team here, so he can hurt you also. And then we have Stone Dubois, who's a 4-man that can score. We have Warren Williams, low post guy that can hurt you. So we have a number of ways that we can hurt you. We can hurt any team.
And if it happens, what would it mean to you to bring Hofstra to the NCAA tournament as a coach?
That would be a dream come true. You know, that would probably be everything to me. To be able to bring Hofstra to the NCAA tournament as not only as a player, but as a coach. I mean, I can't do anything. I can't do anything else.
Well, Speedy, you're doing a great job. I'm very happy for you. A lot of work to do here in the next 2 weeks. Looking forward to watching.
Thanks, Andy.